Hey YouTube, it's you here. So today I want to make a video explaining some aspects of of Harriet Frankfurt's philosophy on freedom. And I think this clip from Star Trek The Next Generation is a wonderful example of showing us how we can apply Frankfurt's philosophy to real world situations when it comes to determining how we should view freedom. And Frankfurt has a tier list we can look at when determining freedom. This list involves things like first order desires, second order desires, will, and second order volitions. Now, first order desires, in this case, we're going to meet a character called Data, and his desire is to live. It is a first order desire because it's not about any other desire. He isn't desiring a particular desire. And then second order desires, on the other hand, are about desires. You reflect on the first desire and exclaim to yourself, yes, this is a desire that I want to have. And Frankfurt would argue that when you act on your second order desire, or second order volition, that becomes your will. But let's hop into the video because there's going to be some distinguishing factors that we can pull out from this video and then apply it to first order, second order desires and so on.
Data is not sentient, no.
Well, would you enlighten us? What is required for sentience?
Intelligence, self-awareness, consciousness.
So here the person essentially questioning whether or not Data is in fact a person distinguishes three factors that we should take into account when determining whether or not someone or something in this case is actually free. Is it intelligent? Does it have self-awareness? And in some way, does it have consciousness? So Data's second order desire here is his ability to recognize the desire as something desirable, meaning after reflection on his desire, he exclaims, he chooses that this is the desire that he wants.
Prove to the court that I am sentient.
This is absurd. We all know you're sentient.
So I am sentient, but Commander Data is not.
That's right.
Why? Why am I sentient?
And the captain here is going to do a real good job of letting the opponent essentially destroy their own argument because they don't even know what their argument is. So that's just a little tidbit that I wanted to throw in there that I thought was a great rhetorical device in this episode.
Well, you are self-aware.
Ah, that's the second of your criteria.
The
Let's
second
deal with the
criteria?
first. Intelligence. Is Commander Data intelligent?
Yes. It has the ability to learn and understand and to cope with new situations.
Like this hearing.
Yes.
What about self-awareness? What does that mean? Why am I self-aware?
Because you are conscious of your existence and actions. You are aware of yourself and your own ego.
So this is really interesting because he attributes everything that intelligent self-awareness and consciousness is to the commander here, but he doesn't to Data for really strange reasons.
Commander Data, what are you doing now?
I'm taking part in a legal hearing to determine my rights and status. Am I a person or property?
And what's at stake?
My right to choose. Perhaps my very life.
My rights. My status, my right to choose. My life. Oh, seems reasonably self-aware to me, Commander.
So Data in this situation is he's actually done two things. He has established that he has, in some form, first order desires, and he's established that he has second order desires because he realizes that what is at stake here is actually his own life. So his desire to value his own life becomes the second order desire that he is now acting upon, which becomes his will. So his will is now in line with his second order desires because he's expressing quite distinctly that he has thought about the situation that he is in and is now actively trying to pursue an outcome for himself. So this is where the commander really shows that Data has self-awareness. And I think coming along with showing that he has self-awareness automatically implies that he has the intelligence required for that self-awareness. And then it comes down to the final part, consciousness. How do we define this consciousness for Data?
I'm waiting.
And he's struggling a bit.
This is exceedingly difficult.
Do you like Commander Data?
I don't know it well enough to like or dislike it.
But you admire him.
Oh, yes. It is an extraordinary piece
Of engineering and programming, yes, you have said that. Commander, you have devoted your life to the study of cybernetics in general,
Yes,
and Commander Data in particular.
yes.
And now you propose to dismantle him.
So that I can learn from it and construct more.
How many more?
As many as are needed. Hundreds, thousands if necessary. There is no limit.
A single Data, and forgive me, Commander, is a curiosity. A wonder even, but thousands of Datas. Is that becoming a race? And won't we be judged by how we treat that race? Now tell me, Commander, what is Data?
I don't understand.
What is he?
A machine!
Is he? Are you sure?
Yes!
You see, he's met 2 of your 3 criteria for sentience, so what if he meets the 3rd? Consciousness in even the smallest degree. What is he then? I don't know. Do you? Do you? Do you? Well, that's the question you have to answer. Your Honor, a courtroom is a crucible. In it we burn away irrelevances.
So right here is a really good example of the type of problem that we face when we talk about consciousness, right? Especially when we're talking about Frankfurt and first order desires, second order desires. We've shown that Data has a desire. His desire is to live. We've also shown, or Data has shown, that he's conscious of the fact that he is in this situation, which is going to determine whether or not he is effectively a free agent. Is he an agent of his own consciousness, intelligence? Can he make second order desires? Does he have the ability to say, I have this desire here? Am I just going to act on this desire? No, he's shown that he has reflected on this desire and says, yes, this is actually the desire that I want. And then, as the end of this video portrays, how do we know what consciousness is? Is consciousness just our ability to understand our own desires and then act upon those desires in a free manner, in a manner that is indicative to how we want to act out our desires. And I think it's a really interesting question, and something that I think Frankfurt gets right, particularly in this situation, where Data is shown to have a desire and is able to reflect on that desire and to make that desire his will by acting it out, presumably in this case by being in a court of law and fighting for his potential right to even be alive. And I think the captain here does a really great job of expanding our understanding, because what happens when in the future, if there are 50,000 datas in the world, each of them with their own desires, first order desires, their ability to act on those desires, to make those desires his will. So what happens when it's no longer just one data? What happens when there's thousands or millions of them? Are we going to treat these millions of other datas as something that they don't have consciousness, they're not self-aware? And I think this is going to become more talked about in the near future when robots start to become more sentient, and they're able to reflect on their desires, whether or not they want desires, which desires they want. And I think this is going to be a big debate coming up in the next 50, 100 years, whether just because something is a machine, does it have the same freedoms that I do? I have first order desires, I have second order desires, and I'm able to act upon those desires. Does that any way make me less conscious than a robot who has a desire, is able to reflect on that desire, and then acts out that desire on their own initiative? I'm not sure, but I think it is a very good jumping off point for these types of discussion when we start talking about ethics of artificial intelligence. And let's finish this up. I think it's only a couple more seconds.
With a pure product, the truth, for all time. Now, sooner or later, this man, or others like him, will succeed in replicating Commander Data. And the decision you reach here today will determine how we will regard this creation of our genius. It will reveal the kind of a people we are, what he is destined to be. It will reach far beyond this courtroom and this one android. It could significantly redefine the boundaries of personal liberty and freedom, expanding them for some, savagely curtailing them for others. Be prepared to condemn him and all who come after him to servitude and slavery. Your Honor, Starfleet was founded to seek out new life. Well, there it sits. Waiting. You wanted a chance to make law? Well, here it is. Make it a good one.
I think that's a really good ending line, especially for this case. And I just want to end off the video, just another quick breakdown. So I just want to show in a little cartoony format exactly how this is affecting Data in this situation, right? So here we've got our little stick figure. We'll call it Data. I'm not going to name him because we already got Desire 1, Desire 2. So it might just make things a little bit more confusing. But Data's desire, right? His first desire is to live. right? So he already baseline, his first desire is to live, right? So now second order desire comes into play, and Data in this situation asks himself, do I have this desire, this 2D, the second desire, to want this first desire? Does he want to have the desire to live, or doesn't he? If the answer is yes, then both of these become his will acted out. Because if he has a desire to do something, like I have the desire to say, I have a desire to drink. Do I want that desire? I'm thirsty. Well, then yes, I should drink. So Data then becomes an active participant because he's acted upon not only his first desire, but he has also reflected on his second desire, or his second order desire, which is to reflect on the first order desire. But then the question becomes, is Data, let's get a little happy face here, is Data a free agent? And another important aspect of Frankfurt's consideration into whether or not someone has free will is something that he calls, or someone that he calls, a wanton, which is essentially a person that does not have second order desires. They only have first order desires. So, playing devil's advocate from the show that we just watched, the Man in Blue would be correct that maybe Data is nothing but a machine. If Data only has first order desires and then immediately acts upon that first order desire, and doesn't take into account whether or not he even wants that desire in the first place. But for Data does have this first order desires, and he has second order desires to be able to reflect on whether or not he even wants his first order desires to begin with. So after his Data's second order desires influence his actions on the first order desires, it becomes his second order desire that determines Data's will. So in this sense, we can see that Data, in the Frankfurt sense, is free and is not just a wanton, or how it's described in the TV show as, just metal in parts, because of the fact that he's able to have these 2D second order desires and then make those desires his will. So ultimately, what Frankfurt is trying to show is that as long as you have these second order desire to be able to choose and determine which first order desires you want, and then to be able to act upon those desires that you actively participate in choosing. You say, I want this desire, I don't want this desire. And then it becomes your second order volition, which is essentially just you acting out the desire that you choose to have. Now, what Frankfurt will say is that someone doesn't have free will when they're a wanton. They don't have this second order desire. Their first order desires, all of these all three of them, they just instantly go into action. There's no deliberating on whether or not you want to do the action or not. Frankfurt is going to say that the wonton, this person that just goes instantly from first order desires to action, doesn't necessarily have free will. But the person who is capable of choosing which of these first order desires that they want, choosing which one they actively participate in, and then making making this desire to part of their action, becomes part of who they are through their action. And then that, for Frankfurt, constitutes the question, are we free? So is data free? Does data have these second order desires? Is he able to choose which desire he wants and doesn't want? Or does he has these desires and they instantly go into the action? I think the video shows that, he's not a wonton. He gets to choose and decide which desires he wants, and then act on how to make those desires a reality. And that's the one thing that the Frankfurt case for the defense for free will tries to accomplish. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this opened your eyes a little bit to Frankfurt's philosophy when it comes to first order, second order desires. When it comes to free will, I'm going to leave a link to 3 or 4 articles or papers written specifically on what we just talked about in this video, because there's no way I could encompass all of the minor facets when applying it to just such a short YouTube video. So I really hope you guys go down there, read through there, leave a comment if you're like, you forgot this one thing, or what about the infinite loop of desires that one could have? Where does it stop? Leave it in the comments down below, and I will definitely get to them, answer any questions you guys have. But the resources I put in the description are definitely going to be way more helpful than a 20-ish minute YouTube video that's just going over some of the basic applications to Frankfurt's philosophy. All right, thanks.